What's up, everyone? It's Lan here with another episode of the Cheeseheadz Weekly Podcast. This is going to be a fun episode here today, talking some more NFL in general. We'll talk some top 10 QBs and some top 5 Super Bowl contending teams with a guest on the show. So it should be a lot of fun. And we'll get to that in a minute. But before we do, be sure to check out the podcast. Everywhere you get your podcast, you can find it. Be sure to follow, hit that follow button, or subscribe, whatever it is. Whatever platform you're using, the show is available anywhere you get your podcast, except for Amazon Music. The show is available on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Give us a like. Give us a comment or two, maybe. Some questions you have, whatever it is. That would be fantastic. Also, you can check out the Q&As and polls that we post every week on Spotify with every episode. There's also a link in the description of every episode on every platform, wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, where you can send in a voice message. Very easy to do, and I can put it on the show for you if you so desire, and answer any questions you may have. The show is available. A new episode is available every Tuesday, so be sure to stick around for that. Every Tuesday, every single week, a new episode will be out. You can rate the show on Spotify and rate and review on Apple Podcasts. Those two things are very helpful to help grow the show. It'd be amazing. You can check out our website at greatcove.net/cheeseheadz. Follow the show on social media at cheeseheadz_weekly. Except for on X, it is at cheeseheadz_W. You can hit the bell icon on Spotify and or YouTube to be notified when a new episode comes out. And last but certainly not least, tell your friends about the show. The best way to get the word out and to be able to for everyone to be able to hear about the show and get more Packers fans listening to the show here today. All right, before we get into the main show, I do have a little bit of news here. The Packers have signed all of their rookies to rookie contracts except for first-round pick Jordan Morgan and second-round pick Edgerrin Cooper, and another second-round pick in Javon Bullard. So those are the three that have not been signed to rookie deals yet. I'm sure that will happen before too long. No need to worry on that front. I'll just check here to be sure we do not have any other major news, and I don't believe there is any, other than the fact that undrafted rookie Trente Jones, who they signed, an offensive lineman, he retired, said that he basically retired because of all the injuries he suffered, all kinds of different joints, constantly having to wear braces on ankles, knees, elbows, etc. And it is a struggle just to wake up in the morning, just to get out of bed, just to stand up, having to take 6 to 8 ibuprofen every morning. And he decided he doesn't want to do it anymore. And I do not blame him a bit. But hey, he did earn some money, signed a contract with Green Bay, and you know what? He earned it. He got to where he was able to be signed by an NFL team, and so he earned the money he was able to get from that, and I wish him well the rest of his career, I guess, elsewhere as he decides what to do with his life. Hopefully those injuries will not be a huge issue for whatever else he decides to do. Also, in other news, not very major news, but Jair Alexander has been surpassed. He no longer is the highest paid defensive back in the NFL. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers gave Antoine Winfield Jr. a big deal. New 4-year deal worth $84.1 million with $45 million guaranteed. Alexander's deal signed May of 2022 was worth $84 million over 4 years, or $21 million per year in new money. So Winfield's deal just barely beats Alexander's yearly average. In other words, Winfield was probably asking to be the highest paid player. So the Buccaneers just gave him a wee little bit more money over the same amount of time and made him the highest paid defensive back in the National Football League. All right, we are going to bring our guest on the show, so don't go away. We got some fun NFL discussion coming your way, and you're not going to want to miss it. Let's bring on our guest. All right, so we're going to bring David on the show here, and someone I've never talked to. We got into a little bit of a debate, I guess, on X, and so now we're here. And it's good to have you here.
Yeah, Landry, thanks for having me on. You're the second person that I've talked to on X that has been like, hey, we should talk about this on a podcast. And so very grateful, thankful that we can have this, because it's always better to have a debate, have a conversation via face-to-face at some point, rather than just letting our Twitter fingers go off.
Exactly. So I guess we'll get into some. Obviously, this is more of a Packers podcast. I am a Packers fan, and I guess you are a Cowboys fan, so that could be interesting.
Yeah.
But we are going to talk a little bit more NFL in general, and talk some quarterbacks. I love having quarterback discussions and debates. You know, what makes a good quarterback, all kinds of different things that go into that, other than just talent. And so I'm excited to discuss that.
Yeah, me too. Let's get into it.
All right. So my guess is you compiled a top 10 rankings for NFL quarterbacks. I did. And so I'm not sure exactly the best way to do this. I guess we'll just I guess I'll have you just go over your list first, bottom to top, top to bottom, however you want to, and we can kind of get into more of a discussion afterwards then.
Yeah. So my list, and I don't know, I guess we should have talked about this before, but I mean, there is a criteria that I had. This is where my list is kind of based off of, because we did an episode on my podcast before about top 10 quarterbacks. It was me, my brother, and our friend Savage, where we came up with this criteria and says, based on this criteria, this is how we're going to rank quarterbacks. And so just so, you know, the audience can know and you can know where my list is coming from, I'm going to quickly go through the criteria, and then I'll give you my top 10 quarterbacks that I have.
Sounds good.
So what I kind of took into consideration was, one, what was the team's success of the quarterback? How many wins did they have? How far did they go in the playoffs? Those sort of things. Did they win the division? The second thing was, what were the statistical achievements of the quarterback? So touchdown passes, interceptions, passing yards, completion percentage, QBR, things of that nature. Then third, what were the personal achievements of that quarterback? So that's Pro Bowl, All Pro, MVP consideration, Offensive Player of the Year, things of that nature. Then it is, what is the degree, or what was the degree of difficulty of the quarterback? Meaning, what did your schedule look like? What was your team construction look like? And how reliant was the team on the quarterback? And then, is this consistent? The achievements, the degree of difficulty, the success, is this consistent in the previous 2 to 3 seasons? And obviously, for quarterbacks who are in their first year starting, or maybe in their second year starting, but it may look a little bit different, and there's some grace that we can give there. Then what is the talent and potential of the quarterback? Do they have a strong arm? Do they have running ability? Like, what does that look like? So that's my criteria when we're looking at quarterbacks and where we rank them within the top 10. Obviously, starting at number 1, I have Patrick Mahomes. Currently, right now, there isn't an argument that could be made that he is not the best quarterback in football right now. 6 seasons starting, 6 AFC championship appearances, 4 Super Bowl appearances, and 3 Super Bowl victories, multiple time MVP, multiple time Super Bowl MVP. Like, this guy has already done it all that you could ask a quarterback to do. So he's very, very clearly number 1. I think my number 2, I'm surprised that people are, and well, I guess I shouldn't be surprised, because I think he is on the hot seat this year to go further down on the list. But number 2 is Joe Burrow. The reason why I have Joe Burrow at number 2 is because he has beaten Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, and most importantly, in the AFC Championship game, to go to a Super Bowl behind a very mediocre offensive line. Has great weapons and a great running back and a great coach, but was also in that playoff run the most sacked quarterback. But I think he is on the hot seat this season because of his injury history. He is injury prone, it seems like. And so he has the opportunity to go down on the list. At number 3, I have Lamar Jackson. He's a 2-time league MVP. Was number 1 seed in the AFC. Very, very talented quarterback. Again, the knock on him would be, well, he's 1-4 in the playoff, or 2-4 in the playoffs now. In the AFC Championship game, he laid an egg when his defense played extremely well. But you're going to notice a pattern in my list as we kind of go along, especially if we're going to talk about quarterback narratives. But Lamar Jackson is at number 3. At number 4, I have CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud had an amazing rookie season, took a Houston team that at the beginning of the year, everyone thought, they're probably going to be picking within the first 5 picks again this year. Leads him to a 10-7 record, leads him to a playoff victory against the Cleveland Browns, goes toe-to-toe with the Baltimore Ravens defense for 2.5 quarters before the inexperience and all that kind of stuff finally caught up with them. But this is a quarterback who has a lot of upside, and someone that I was saying at midseason last year he was playing as the second best quarterback in the NFL at that time. And so I'm a huge fan of CJ Stroud. I think he's going to continue to ascend, and he's going to continue to be excellent. So he's at number 4. At number 5, this is where the list gets interesting. Because at number 5, I do have Dak Prescott. 12-5 record, second in MVP voting, second team All-Pro, 36 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, with no running game and an offense that was inconsistent, and a team overall that was just the most penalized team in the National Football League, was the reason why we won 12 games that season. Obviously, we know his postseason failures and the team's postseason failures, but I think that based on the situation that he's in, he has shown that he is capable of being a top 5 quarterback. Maybe in a different situation, he's able to elevate and be better than what he has been in the postseason. But at number 6, I have Jared Goff, someone who's very similar to Dak Prescott. except that he had a ground game. He had one of the best offensive lines in football, but his defense was really mediocre until it got to the playoffs. They actually played pretty well. But Jared Goff has put 2 great seasons together back to back, led his team to the NFC Championship this year, almost pulled it out if Dan Campbell would have called the game a little bit differently, and without the 49ers having some luck on their side. I think that he's a great quarterback. He's a great quarterback. He's proven himself. As long as he has the weapons around him, I like what Jared Goff can do. At number 7, I have Jordan Love. I've been listening to your podcast since I've heard that we were going to do this. Man, do you love Jordan Love? And for very, very good reason. This is a guy who's a first-round draft pick who was given the opportunity to sit on the bench and learn from Aaron Rodgers, to learn under Matt LaFleur, and he's been great in his first season. I'm really shocked and surprised how bad people talk about Jordan Love in that first half of his career, or first half of the season, when this is his first time really, really starting. This is his first time playing in actual games. And by the time he got into the middle of the season, he figured it out already. 32 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, beat the Dallas Cowboys. Destroyed the Dallas Cowboys, and for the most part held his own against the San Francisco 49ers until the second half of that game. And obviously he threw those 2 picks, but there's nothing but upside with Jordan Love. And I think that probably by the end of the season, he's going to be making a really strong case to be a top 5 quarterback. He has a young team, a great head coach, a great front office, and he's the one who's performing well. He's not getting carried by any sense of the word, but he does utilize everything that's in front of him, which is all you can ask for a quarterback. It's not a knock on him. So Jordan Love is my number 7, and I really considered putting him at number 6 over Jared Goff, just because of the numbers and just production-wise and the reliance that they clearly have on Jordan Love a little bit more than Jared Goff. So I'm willing to make those 2 switches if I'm really pushed. But at number 8, I have Josh Allen. Talented. He's a good quarterback. Josh Allen came up in a lot of our conversations that we were talking about on X. I think he's one of the most talented quarterbacks in the NFL. But since he's entered into the league, he's also committed the most turnovers in the NFL. And I think that he's just really benefited from having a really, really good team that could, cover up his mistakes. Especially if you look at how the Buffalo Bills got into the playoffs last year. I felt like that they took the ball out of his hands, meaning they put the ball on the ground with him and James Cook in that running game. They really relied on defense to push them forward into the playoffs. And then when playoff time came, and you're going against the Steelers with Mason Rudolph at quarterback, a defense without TJ Watt, really not that impressive. And then goes up to Kansas City and has a chance at the end of the game to perform and be a top 3 quarterback like everyone believes that he is, and then he's unable to get the job done. And so I just have a hard time putting him at number 3 or anywhere near there with these other quarterbacks. So I have him at number 8. At number 9, I have Matthew Stafford. I think he's a great quarterback. I think he's still got, the arm talent is there. He's won a Super Bowl recently, coming back from injury, and he looked pretty well. I think this Ram team is going to be great next year. He's just talented. There's not much else I can say about Matthew Stafford, but he is really good. And then at number 10, I have Brock Purdy. I think that Brock Purdy gets a lot of hate. And it's because he's not the most flashy quarterback like a Josh Allen or a Patrick Mahomes. And he does have a loaded team and a loaded roster. But the San Francisco 49ers have never looked this good under anybody else other than Brock Purdy. And you can say, well, that's Jimmy G and it's Trey Lance, so it doesn't take that much. But every time he left the field in the Super Bowl, they were winning. Like when he went on the field, when they left, they had the lead. And I thought that, the offensive line was kind of shaky for San Francisco. And if he would have had like a split second more, I think we could have seen a different ball game. And I think Brock Purdy has proven himself with the comeback against Green Bay, the comeback against Detroit, and how he played in the Super Bowl. I think he does deserve to be in the top 10. But those are my top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL heading into next season.
That's a very good list, and the arguments as well are very good. I will admit that I do not feel very prepared for this. I used some rankings that I had put together before in a previous episode that I did with a couple of my friends, and I did not put a ton of thought into it quite the way you did. I kind of went a little bit by feel at some points, and perhaps a little bit by bias. But here we go. Number one, obviously Patrick Mahomes. He is 3-1 in the Super Bowl. Just got done going back to back without a real solid group of wide receivers. A lot of drop passes, obviously, as Travis Kelce, but they've never really had been big on the running game. And Patrick Mahomes just continues to get it done. Obviously, they have a great coach, but Patrick Mahomes is an all-time great already, and it's crazy how young he still is. Number two is where things will right away get really interesting. I have Josh Allen at number two. Now, I get it with the playoff stuff, and I do put a good bit of emphasis on that. I feel like some of his losses were a little bit unlucky. He had that, I think it was, 2 years ago now in the divisional round, maybe, where maybe it was a championship. I'm not sure. He led the team down the field to what seemed to be a game-winning drive. Left 13 seconds left for Patrick Mahomes to somehow take the Chiefs back down the field. Not sure what happened there with the Bills defense. So again, Mahomes has got the better of Josh Allen plenty of times. And I mean, I do have Mahomes ranked above Josh Allen. Josh Allen, again, has that amazing rushing ability. He does turn the ball over a fair amount. And the playoffs have not been great. However, I do think he has carried this team for the most part the past few seasons. Last season, like you did say, I think the Bills actually did a good thing by taking some of the weight off his shoulders and running it more with James Cook. I think they should have done that sooner. And running game is very helpful for quarterbacks if you can have a solid running game. And Josh Allen still managed to take his team to the playoffs multiple years without much of a running game. And when it comes to playoff time, he can tend to take over a game. He'll rush the ball. He really leaves it all out there. He just has not been in the win column. And I totally get putting him lower on the rankings, but he does have tremendous talent. And I'm going to put him at number two. Number three, I have Joe Burrow there. Again, that injury history is definitely something to look at, but he is a great quarterback when he is on the field, very much a leader. And again, what he did behind that banged up offensive line to get them to the Super Bowl is just a very, very impressive accomplishment. And I hope he can come back from injury and continue to perform, because he will help the Bengals be a very good team for a while and continue to remain contenders. Number four, I have CJ Stroud. I debated very hard between him and Jordan Love. I will say this. In my rankings, I did look a little bit more, take a little bit more of a futuristic approach, I guess, as in what teams would want potentially in a future franchise guy. So a little bit different than your rankings, perhaps. Looking more towards the future, I guess. But that is partially why I have CJ Stroud this high, which I guess you did too, right around in this range. And just really impressive. He played like a top 5-ish quarterback, and it was all in his rookie year. So he's still extremely young. The Texans are set up for a lot of future success if CJ Stroud keeps this up, and I don't see anywhere to go but up. And they have continued to build the team around him. So I think Stroud is going to be a top quarterback in the league here in the coming seasons. Number 5, I do have Jordan Love. If I'm going, we've had this discussion with fantasy football people. If I was going fantasy football, I'm taking Jordan Love over CJ Stroud because he has some rushing upside there. I see them very similarly. I see a lot of discussions between these two guys. Obviously, Jordan Love got to sit a few years. He did not do all this in his rookie year, and Stroud performed as good or better than Love in his rookie year, and Love was in his 4th year. So that's kind of the determining factor between Stroud and Love. But again, anyone who listens to the show knows I am a huge fan of Jordan Love, and just not only on the field performance, but off the field. He is a great all-around quarterback. Number 6, we're getting to a guy that was not even on your top 10, Justin Herbert, quarterback for the Chargers, still young, showed a lot, had a pretty good rookie year, and has kind of, fallen by the wayside, I guess, a little bit. Not a lot of people are talking about him. The team was not great last year. I think a lot of that was due to coaching, and they did fire their head coach, so that seems to be a little bit telling. But Justin Herbert is another one of those great young quarterbacks. I kind of put him in the same type of tier, I guess, as Stroud and Love, as one of those young guys still rising, still has yet to reach his potential, great arm talent, and has started off well. I think he's a great quarterback if he has good coaching and, a few more pieces around him, perhaps. I think he really could take this team to the next level, but he just has had no support whatsoever, whether it's on the defensive side of the ball. And the offense was banged up for much of last year. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, guys like that are getting injured. And now both of them are gone in free agency. So I'm not sure what his future looks like, but if I'm a team in the NFL, Justin Herbert is very much a quarterback I would like to have on my team. Number 7 is Lamar Jackson. Again, won some MVPs, like you mentioned. To me, MVP does not mean a whole lot. It does not show that you're a winner. And Lamar Jackson, while uber talented, has not been able to take his team too far in the playoffs. They've not made the Super Bowl with him at quarterback, which neither has Justin Herbert, and perhaps I should have him ahead of Justin Herbert. He has had more success, and again, obviously the stats are good because that is basically what the MVP award is based on. But I'd like to see him be able to just kind of take his team to the next level. I think in that game versus the Chiefs, he looked a little bit lost at times. Looked like he was really pressing, trying to do too much, pushing the ball down the field, when just take what you got and then go from there. So I think he still has a lot to learn. I think he can continue to get better as well. Number 8, we hit another guy that was not on your list, and that is Jalen Hurts. Took a major step back after a breakout year. I still think he can be good. The Eagles were a little bit of a mystery last season as to what kind of went wrong with them. I really don't know what it is. I think it was potentially the play calling a little bit. And they did lose their offensive coordinator, Shane Steichen, who immediately started making the Colts better when he became their head coach. So I think that does play a part. And perhaps the defense wasn't quite as good. Their defensive coordinator also left, and Jonathan Gannon, and he has already had some success with a pretty bad Cardinals team. So I think they hired, Kellen Moore in the offseason. I think that can help him in the offense. I'm not completely sold on Moore, but I think that will hopefully help Hurts get back to where he was 2 seasons ago and put the Eagles back in contention. Number 9, I have Brock Purdy. I agree completely with what you said about him. He has been getting a lot of hate, and I really like Brock Purdy because he knows how to play within the system. And like I said about Lamar Jackson, sometimes he tries to do too much, which it's good to be able to play off script, especially when you're in the playoffs. You need to get that win to keep yourself alive. But Brock Purdy knows he has a good play caller in Kyle Shanahan. They have all the pieces around him. He knows how to play within the system, and he plays within the system well. He is able to make accurate passes, get the ball to the open guy, does well under pressure, is pretty much unfazed. And even, in the playoffs when it matters most, he's a pretty tough guy. He's got some grit and can, while not extremely athletic, will occasionally scramble and pick up some yards that way as well. He just is very much a team player, and that's what you need at quarterback. Number 10, I have Matthew Stafford there. I guess an average type quarterback of the top 10 quarterbacks. It's kind of weird to say when you have them in the top 10, but consistently just plays well and just a veteran, plays smart, does have a pretty good offense around him and a good play caller, but he never had that in Detroit. And now that he is with the Rams and Sean McVay, he has kind of been unlocked. McVay kind of unlocked that talent there. And so we've seen him win. He's been a winning quarterback, and that is what you like to see out of a franchise guy leading the Rams to a Super Bowl victory. So that's my top 10. Obviously, I left out Dak Prescott. I was thinking about Dak Prescott a little bit more. I probably should have tried to redo some of these a little bit. There's a few things I would maybe change slightly. I would probably put Dak above, potentially put him in the top 7 above Jalen Hurts, but I don't know. I really don't know what to do with Jalen Hurts just because he had such a great year and then things just went south. I don't know if it was him or if it was the team around him. And honestly, kind of the same with Dak Prescott. I saw some of the things you said about how the team kind of fell apart, and specifically against the Packers. It certainly looked like that. So, yeah, you can feel free to roast me here. I also left off Jared Goff. I will say that I do think Dak Prescott is better than Jared Goff, for what it's worth. But I guess let's get into it. First of all, maybe what do you think of having Josh Allen at number 2? And does that make any sense at all to you?
I mean, I think having Josh Allen at number 2 is the right decision if we are talking about talented, like based off of talent. The reason why I don't have him that high is because I think that if you take him off the Buffalo Bills, which is a team that is able to hold teams to not score or to only kick field goals when he turns the ball over, and let's say you put him on a team like Dallas, right? Because we are talking about, Dak Prescott, and why I even had him at 5 is because I feel like for Josh Allen, think about week 1 when they were going up against the New York Jets. He turned the ball over 4 times himself. I think it was like 3 picks and then a fumble, right? They were still in the game at the end of it. Despite all the turnovers that he had, they still had an opportunity to win that football game.
Mm-hmm.
If Dak turns the ball over 4 times in a football game, like the Cowboys lose by 35 or something like that. Like we even saw it in Green Bay, against the Green Bay Packers, Dak throws a pick, and the defense lets up a score. I mean, they were letting up scores anyway. Then Dak throws a pick 6, and it's already 27-0, and he scores a touchdown at the end of the half. Then we go down the field in the second half and we kick a field goal. So it's 27-7, as 27-10. Let's say that the Cowboys, which they're not capable of, but let's just pretend that they're capable of getting a stop, right? And the Cowboys go down the field, they score another touchdown again. It's 27-17. We saw this with Detroit and San Francisco. The San Francisco 49ers were down 28-10 going into halftime, and they ended up winning the game because the defense stepped up, did their job. And so to bring this conversation back to Josh Allen, I don't think that Josh Allen can go to another team and be as successful of a quarterback because of his turnovers. And so it's all based on. So I think when I evaluate quarterbacks, I'm like, if I can take them and put them on another team, will they have more success? I don't think, unfortunately, Josh Allen is one of those quarterbacks that you can put him on another team, and unless it's Kansas City because of their stellar defense, I think any team with a good defense, you could probably take Josh Allen and put them on, because they'd be like, well, if he turns the ball over 2-3 times, we can stop him 2 of those times and we can still be in the ball game. But it's like the same thing with Justin Herbert too. Justin Herbert's top 3, I think, talent-wise as a quarterback. He's got a rocket of an arm, incredible accuracy, but he also has moments to where he comes up short in games when they need him. I guess one of the examples of that was against my Dallas Cowboys on Monday Night Football. It was whenever the Cowboys were still in that weird phase of do we open up the pass more and let Dak throw more? Justin Herbert missed 3 touchdown throws in that game that if he would have made them, I think Cowboys lose that game because of the defense, but he missed those throws. And I think and then we go back to the game against Jacksonville the year before that in the playoffs. Obviously, their head coaches, I'm with you 100% when it comes to coaching. One of the worst head coaches probably I think he was one of the coaches, I think along with Mike McCarthy, that has been carried by the talent of their team until obviously this season. And then I don't really think much of Kellen Moore either, which is why I'm like, I feel bad for Jalen Hurts because I'm like, I don't think he's going to help you. I think that if they have success, if Philly has success, it's going to be because of Jalen Hurts. It's not going to be because of Kellen Moore. That's just, or at least he's going to make them look good and put up a lot of numbers, but it's not going to turn into wins or postseason success because he's just not that OC. But that's a long story. But that's basically why I don't have Josh Allen so high, is because I think that if you do take him off that Buffalo team and put him on another team with the amount of turnovers that he has, I don't think he has the same success going forward.
No, that makes sense. That's definitely good thinking. Here's a random question. Since we're talking about putting quarterbacks on different teams, do you think Jordan Love could potentially have more success if he was playing for the Cowboys than Dak Prescott would? And well, basically what I'm asking is, which is a better situation for a quarterback, Packers or the Cowboys, I guess?
Let's see. Would Jordan Love benefit more if he was on the Dallas Cowboys with a front office that is incapable of signing good players, bringing in good head coaches that could maximize the talent level of the roster? No, I think Jordan Love is in the best position that you could ever ask for. And I think more so, and I got to be careful when I say this, but I think either on par or more so than the San Francisco 49ers, because you have a young football team. You had one of the youngest football teams in the NFL. Now, I don't put much stock in them beating the Cowboys, because I think the Cowboys, what they showed throughout the year was that anytime they played against a good football team, the defense folded every single time. And to be fair, half the time the offense also doesn't play well. So Jordan Love had the game that was quintessential to Dak Prescott's Tampa Bay game when he retired Tom Brady. But you go toe-to-toe with San Francisco. Like, to me, that's the thing that I'm just like, okay, we could talk. I could diminish a little bit that Cowboys game, but let's not pretend like if your field goal kicker doesn't make the field goal that we're having a different conversation about Green Bay or Jordan Love or whatever, because they played well. Jordan Love played well until those two interceptions, which he's young, first year starting. I'm gonna give him all the passes in the world because it's your first year. Like, I don't expect you to do that all the time, because he hasn't been doing that all year, especially that back half. So I think Jordan Love right now is in the best position because I believe in Matt LaFleur as a head coach. I believe in your GM. I believe in this roster. And I think Jordan Love is getting the development. And I mean, again, he sat for 3 seasons. He's been developed under a good head coach. And whether, I don't ever know how Green Bay Packer fans feel about Aaron Rodgers at this point, but Aaron Rodgers is a future Hall of Fame quarterback that Jordan Love learned from. So, yeah, it was an incredible situation. It continues to be a good situation for Jordan Love. I think that Green Bay is we're not talking about this yet, but I think Green Bay is in contention for a Super Bowl this season because of the moves that they've made in the draft, in free agency, just the fact that they're a young team who's developed and don't have any major contracts right now. So this is a good situation for Jordan Love, 100%.
Yep, I definitely agree. So basically, what I'm hearing you say is the Cowboys have a problem as an organization, as a coaching staff, and not so much at quarterback. I actually could get behind that a little bit. I've never really been a huge fan of Jerry Jones and company. Uh,
Hmm.
so
Yeah.
that would actually be interesting to see Dak Prescott uh, play with perhaps a better coach. Again, it is hard to find better coaches, and I think that's kind of the reason they keep Mike McCarthy, because Mike McCarthy is probably a better coach than anyone else you're going to find at this point. So that's just, yeah, I guess they're kind of stuck at the moment. But
Hmm.
I agree with you. I've not been a huge fan of Mike McCarthy. He did win one Super Bowl with Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers, who
Hmm.
is a great quarterback. So, and then not much else, just that one. And he coached Aaron Rodgers for a good many years there. So,
Hmm.
um,
So let me ask you a question as a Green Bay Packer fan to get into the mind of, I mean, because you guys had Mike McCarthy for years, right? And went to a couple of NFC championships even after that Super Bowl. But I mean, did you feel that at times, especially when I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but I mean, you guys had postseasons to where the offense and Aaron Rodgers are putting up 35 to 38 points in the postseason, and you guys are still losing. Like, do you think that was because of Mike McCarthy and his inability to effectively prepare a football team to perform at the highest level in the postseason? Like, is that something that, like, when Mike McCarthy was fired, was that something you were just like, great, we actually might have a chance to do something in the postseason?
yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I don't remember a lot of those years very, very specifically, because I've not been, um, I guess, into football very deep for that long. But I do, yeah, I mean, well, it's definitely evidenced by the way the Cowboys played against the Packers there. But um, yeah, I mean, immediately after Matt LaFleur was hired, they went 13-3. And I mean, Aaron Rodgers was, we thought, on the decline, um, which is why they drafted Jordan Love when they did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, Matt LaFleur definitely seems to elevate players a lot better than Mike McCarthy did. Um, I know a few Packers fans that thought maybe Aaron Rodgers was the problem, and uh, he was the one that got Mike McCarthy fired and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think it ended up being a good move because they did, with a pretty good team. The one year I think Rodgers was injured for most of the season, but they missed the
Mm-hmm.
playoffs twice in a row. And then he was fired midway through that second season once they were eliminated from the playoffs. So, uh, yeah, I've seen some pretty great moments from Aaron Rodgers just trying to, um, I guess, keep his team in the game in the playoffs, just kind of carrying the team a little bit, but
Yeah.
ultimately falling short. And yeah, I think it does come down to how you prepare players on game day. And I think that's a real thing, because you just look back at the divisional round, um, or sorry, the, what was it, wild card round, I guess. Um, my mind is blanking right now. Was it the divisional round last year against the Cowboys?
Um,
I can't even remember which round of the playoffs it was.
that we lost.
Yeah.
Yeah, the divisional round. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And so Cowboys were clearly not ready to play in that game. They
Yeah.
did not look ready from the beginning. Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb were off. Everyone looked off. And The Packers looked like they were playing with real energy and
Mm-hmm.
just working well together as a team. So, yeah, I do think that's kind of an issue with him.
Yeah. And so, like, for me, like, when we talk about, like, do I think that Dak Prescott is capable of winning a Super Bowl in Dallas with the current regime? No, I don't. But I also don't think that there's a lot of other quarterbacks who could. I think the only one who could is Patrick Mahomes. But even then, I'm like, I don't know. Because we just saw a postseason from him to where you win the AFC Championship game by only scoring 17 points. Then you go to the Super Bowl, you only score 10 points by half. You come out in the second half in your first drive on a third down and you throw an interception. So he even needed a defense because of what his weapons were offensively. Like, no one's saying that they were world beaters, but he had to rely on a defense to go where he needed to go. And so if you're looking at Patrick Mahomes going into Dallas and it's like, Patrick, you need to score, like, in every big game, you have to score 45 points. You have no running game. You do have CeeDee Lamb, but then you also have Jake Ferguson, but then you have Brandon Cooks, who Mike McCarthy hasn't seemed to be able to figure out how to utilize to the fullest, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have a Michael Gallup who is not the same as he was before that injury in 2021. Like, who do you really have? And you don't have a defense either. So I guess that's why I'm so passionate about this Dak Prescott thing, because I don't believe, I think that if you're a top 10 quarterback, you should be able to win a Super Bowl as a top 10 quarterback. But you need a team to do that. And we saw that in this postseason, that you need a team to do that. And so when you look at Dallas and you see all the chaos and the disorder and not being ready to play, like, I understand that Dak has some blame to take in, but at the same time, like, Landry, I'm going to ask you this question, and I know you're going to be honest with me, because I feel like, again, I listened to that episode. If Green Bay didn't take out their starters in the third quarter, I'm under the impression that you guys are scoring 60, at least in mid 50s. Like they were not stopping you at all in that game. And so when I think about that, that's why I don't put the blame on Dak Prescott, at least the majority of it, and why I don't use that game as the reason to say he shouldn't be the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. Now, if you want to say no one should be the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys because it's a terrible situation, I'm with you there. I think that if Dak were to go to somewhere else, let's say Cleveland next year, if Deshaun Watson doesn't pan out and you put Dak Prescott on the Cleveland Browns with Nick Chubb, Amari Cooper, David Njoku, and that top-rated defense, what do you think is going to happen? A deep run to the playoffs, maybe. I mean, it's the AFC. There's Mahomes is there. So, but you would feel better about that situation than him being in Dallas.
I mean, I think he would have took the Browns further than Joe Flacco did. I think he's a better quarterback than Flacco is. And I know Kevin Stefanski is a great coach. I really like him as a coach, and was just coach of the year. So, yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. And I guess I will have to reevaluate my thoughts on Dak Prescott. Yeah, what you're saying does make a lot of sense. All right, I guess we'll move on here and talk some Super Bowl contenders. We briefly mentioned this a few times here. And yes, a quarterback does play a big part, but you have to have a team. When the Patrick Mahomes won the Super Bowl this season. It was a little bit different than in past years. In past years, it was a lot of offense and not a ton of defense. With Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. This year, not as much offense, a lot more defense, and so it does take a team to make it happen. So I'll just go over my top 5 or 6. I honestly really struggled with this one because there's so many.
It's a hard one.
I know there's so many good teams out there, but number 1, the Chiefs. I don't know how you can take them out of contention until like maybe Travis Kelce's gone or Andy Reid's gone or someone, but they basically brought everyone back. Well, I guess they did trade Snead, their top corner, but they got most of the guys back on offense at least. I'm sure they'll figure the rest of it out. The Chiefs just are able to keep doing it again and again, and I'm not sure how you can not have them in a list of top contenders. Number 2, I have the 49ers here. The two teams that were in the Super Bowl. 49ers, again, still have that great team. They brought in some defensive line help, trying to put more pressure on the quarterback. I think that will help them out. And again, we talked about Brock Purdy. I think he can be the quarterback to take them over the edge. They were very close in the Super Bowl, and a few calls didn't go their way. Perhaps some bad luck, and perhaps just the Chiefs were better. But either way, they were in that game until the very end, and I think they can definitely be back next year. Number 3, I have the Ravens. Again, I still do have some questions about their Lamar Jackson and just their team's ability to win big games, but I think they have basically have the team in place. I think if Lamar Jackson can learn to play within the structure of the offense, take what the defense is giving him, I think they can do a lot better than they did last year. Number 4, I have the Lions. Jared Goff was just signed to a big extension. Amon-Ra St. Brown just signed to a big extension. They are keeping all the major pieces around, and their secondary needed some work. They drafted Terrion Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw Jr., and I think they are ready to compete here in the NFC. Obviously, they made it to the championship game. Ultimately fell short after a great first half against the 49ers, but I think they'll be back, and they'll be better prepared, hopefully. And I think with the team they have around Goff, he can definitely take them there. And number 5, I cheated a little bit and put in two teams that I think of very similarly. The Packers and the Texans, both with the young quarterback. Again, there's been plenty of debate between Stroud and Love, and so I put them both here at the, I guess, tied for number 5 on my list. And both of them have very young teams, and both of them have done some work in free agency and the draft to address some needs, and I think they both could make a potentially long run into the playoffs.
It's freaky how close our lists are. Like our like the all the teams that you mentioned are all the teams that I have 1 through 6. I know you said 5, but 1 through 6 is like they're pretty much the same. I mean, at number 1, Kansas City for me. Number 2, San Francisco for the reasons that you explained. The order is probably where we differ a little bit, I have Detroit over Baltimore just because Baltimore's defense I don't think is going to be as good as last year, and also I trust Jared Goff a little bit more in the postseason than Lamar Jackson,
That's
even
fair.
though Lamar Jackson is, like you said, oodles talented. So I have Detroit at 3, and then I have Baltimore at 4. And then at 5, I do have Houston because of the moves that they made this offseason. CJ Stroud and his ability and his talent. He's a top 5 quarterback. And so I believe in DeMeco Ryans.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that Green Bay is that far off. I think Green Bay, again, they have the potential, they have the ability, and I think that it's more than possible that Green Bay is better than Detroit. Like it's possible. Like it's very, very possible, which makes the NFC North so interesting a division because you have Detroit and Jared Goff, you have Jordan Love and the Packers, you have the mystery of Caleb Williams in Chicago, and then you also have JJ McCarthy with a good coach like Kevin McConnell in Minnesota. Like this is a very, very great division. But I also see Green Bay possibly being the team that comes out of the North. So, those are my 5 or 6 teams. Our lists are very, very similar. And I think that especially 3, 4 could be flipped, 5, 6 can be flipped, just depending on who's making the argument. But yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. I think the Packers were kind of originally, with the way they were building this team, looking towards making a run potentially in 2025. Now it looks like the way Goody is putting things together, potentially preparing for them to make a run this year. And I mean, if we saw what happened last year, they were, a play or two away from playing in the NFC Championship game. So definitely interesting. Should be interesting year. Like I really don't know what to expect from the Packers because it feels like they got farther than they should have last year. And it feels like with what they've done in the offseason, they should be way better. But again, it's a long season. You don't know what's going to happen. So I'm just excited to see what does happen.
Yeah, I am too. I Green Bay deserved to be where they were last year. Like they earned a division spot. The only way that they would not have deserved to be where they got, or like they went farther than they should have, is if they would have stunk it up against San Francisco. Mm-hmm. If it would have been a blowout, then it'd been like, well, you waltzed past the Dallas Cowboys team that was basically the Tampa Bay Buccaneers the year before, and you face San Francisco and you lay an egg. But no, the fact that you were in the fourth quarter with the chance to win the football game, like that was a statement that says, no, the Green Bay Packers are not only legit, but they're a year early of where they should be. Because I think even last year, the expectations for Green Bay was 7-10.
Yeah.
Like missing the playoffs. You go 9-8, you're the 7th seed, you beat the Dallas Cowboys, and then you play a good game with an opportunity to win against the San Francisco 49ers. Like, with the offseason that they had, or that they're having, there's no reason why Green Bay shouldn't be a Super Bowl contender heading into the year.
Yeah. So they added a big piece. I think the biggest move of the offseason for them was the addition of Xavier McKinney at safety. And, well, actually, let me just backtrack a little bit. Probably the biggest move of the offseason was the firing of Joe Barry and hiring Jeff Hafley, who, from all accounts and reports and from everything that's been said in interviews, seems to be building a defense that is going to be aggressive, and that is really exciting. He wants to rush the passer, get after the quarterback nonstop. They picked some linebackers that can blitz, in Edgerrin Cooper and Tyron Hopper. Again, they picked up McKinney in free agency, which was a big ad. They drafted Javon Bullard, who will likely be a day one starter across from McKinney. There's just a lot to be excited about. And again, with all the new players, younger players, there'll be a couple rookies at least starting on this defense. There are still plenty of unknowns. And again, we haven't seen Hafley actually coach, so we don't know what the defense is going to look like. But I don't see how it can get much worse than Barry. Obviously, the defense did step up a little bit in the playoffs. They seem to do that. I do think that was a little bit because of kind of players protesting and Matt LaFleur kind of getting into the play calling, because we saw them blitzing a good bit more than earlier in the regular season when they had some of those bad performances. I think Matt LaFleur went out and hired a guy that he believes will be able to completely take over the defense and run the defense and allow Matt LaFleur to run the offense. And that's great, because Matt LaFleur focusing completely on the offense will make the offense that much better, and hopefully make the defense better as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so not sure if there's anything else you want to address specifically here.
Let's just real quick. Let's talk about the quarterback market, okay, and how it works. Because I think this is kind of how the situation started, or this is always how I get into every argument on X, is like, we just saw Jared Goff, who you don't even have in your top 10, who I have as like just the sixth best quarterback, is the second highest paid quarterback in the National Football League. 4 years, $212 million, $53 million a year. Guys, that's just what the market is. You can't change it. I can't change it. And I don't actually think the owners can change it either, unless they want to get a new CBA. So when you're looking at even a guy like Tua, who is going to be up for a contract soon, none of us put him in our top 10. But at some point, he could be asking for $50, $45 million. We saw Daniel Jones, who I don't think either one of us would have in our top 25 quarterbacks in the NFL, get $40 million. Like, it is what it is. And so when we're talking about this player doesn't deserve this money, the answer is sure, but no one has really deserved their contract based on their production. Lamar Jackson, I think, is like third highest paid quarterback, or when he did sign his contract he had one playoff win. Justin Herbert then surpassed him, or was surpassed somewhere. At one point, he was the highest paid player, and he has no playoff wins. So when we're talking about players getting their money, and especially, again, I know I'm getting crazy talking about Dak Prescott a lot, but when someone says Dak Prescott doesn't deserve X amount of money, sure, fine. But that's what the market says that he deserves, is when you're second in MVP voting and you're a second team All-Pro and you have 2 playoff wins, which is more than Justin Herbert, equal to Lamar Jackson. I mean, come on. Like, the market is the market. And I don't think that Dak should be a team player and take a pay cut, because when his cap hit was $8 million, the Cowboys did nothing with the money. They are not a good front office. So I'm more than okay for a quarterback to go, I already know you're not going to go get guys. I already know that you're not going to sign anybody. So I might as well just take the bag anyway, because that money is just going to sit there and do nothing. So when it comes to the quarterback market, pay your quarterbacks as early as possible and give them a good contract, because trust me, paying them early right now is going to hurt less in the long run. If you don't believe me, ask the Dallas Cowboys, who are going to have to pay Dak Prescott $60 million to be their quarterback. Does he deserve it? No, but it's what the market says he deserves.
Yep. No, I totally agree with that. Every time a new player becomes the highest paid player or whatever, like, the market's just continuing to go up. It's not really, it's basically whoever gets the next contract, whoever signs an extension next is the one that's getting paid, not exactly the one that is perhaps the most talented. So, yeah, I'm not sure what the Cowboys are looking to do. From what I've seen, there's not been a whole lot happening on that front. But yeah, it's just kind of a difficult situation for teams, and especially now that Goff just got the bag the way he did. I mean, that means that the Packers are going to have to pay Jordan Love that much more. So,
yes, 100%. Let's say that Jordan Love balls out this year, right? And let's say that Dak gets paid before him or whatever. Right now, Jordan Love's going to cost you $60 million if he has a good season. If he has another season like he had this year where he wins a playoff game, like, 60 million is on the table. Because according to the market, that's what he deserves, right? But guess what Green Bay's going to do? They're going to pay him that money, because they don't want to pay him 70 million, 65 million the year after that, because Green Bay is smart. They're smart. They know what to do.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I was kind of disappointed when they lost Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones has been such a team player for them. For that reason, one of my favorite players all time that I've ever got the opportunity to watch. Really when I started following football is when he came onto the scene, and he's always been really fun to watch on the field. He's amazing off the field, all around a great guy. And that's why myself and many other Packers fans were sad to see him leave. But the Packers, the fact that the organization is good makes players want to play for them and want to compete for a Super Bowl. And so I think that really helps them out in these contract negotiations, that they can perhaps not have to pay Love quite, top of the market value, because they have a team built around him, and it's a really great situation for him. And maybe he'll be willing to take a little bit less to help them keep everyone together and hopefully compete for a long time. Again, I'm not saying he has to do that. I'm saying it's nice when a player does that, but Jordan Love absolutely earned and will earn everything he's getting. So I'm not against them paying him at all.
Yeah, and if Jordan Love does that, it's because he believes that the front office is going to do their job and use that money to build the team around him.
Yeah, I'd say that's a good belief to have, because the Packers have already been doing that.
Yeah.
I was very, I'll just say this, I'm sure you were too, but I was very surprised that the Cowboys did not take a running back in the draft. That was just crazy to me that they did not do that. And like, they, um, yeah, like I was really watching that because, I play fantasy football. And so,
Mm-hmm.
basically the running back, the rookie running back that goes to the Cowboys is the one that you're going to want to draft in rookie drafts, or just any fantasy football draft. And they did not even take one. They had basically the biggest need of any other team at that spot and
Mm-hmm.
did not take a single running back. What are your thoughts on that?
It's on brand for Dallas. I do think that they probably were hurt by Ezekiel Elliott because we took him with the 4th overall pick in 2016. Had a great couple of years, and then kind of the wheels fell off that wagon.
Mm-hmm.
And then you draft Deuce Vaughn in the 6th round last year. So maybe it was a vote of confidence in Deuce Vaughn to be like, hey, we want to use him more. Like he's possibly like our future back. I don't know. It doesn't look that way, but maybe that is what they're thinking. No, I just think that I don't know how closely you've been listening to what Jerry's had to say in this offseason, but everyone's all heard the all-in statement, We're all in free agency.
Mm-hmm.
Then it became we're all in signing Dak, Micah, and CD. Then it was we're all in the draft. Now they're all in to win with less. So, and I've been accused of I've been accused of setting up this narrative that this team is not very good just because I want to protect Dak from criticism, which is not true. I just don't think this team is very good when you look at the holes that we have on our team. I mean, you have a defense that didn't play they may have been ranked number 4 in the league, but in every single big game, that defense folded, right? You have an offensive line to where you have a project possibly at right tackle in Guyton. You have Connor Beebe, who I think is going to be pretty good, but he's young, right? Mm-hmm. Then you have Hoffman, who was our backup center. How good is he really going to be? The only 2 guys that you really have any confidence is Tyler Smith and Zach Martin. The rest of the offensive line, you don't know. Then you have Ezekiel Elliott, Rico Dowdle, Deuce Vaughn. That's not a room that you're excited about. You have CD Lamb. That's great. Brandon Cooks. That's great if we know how to use them. Jake Ferguson. That's great. But who's your receiver 3? Is it Turpin or is it Tolbert? You don't know. The only thing that you're confident is in Dak Prescott of being able to do something. But I don't think that you can look at this team and say, yeah, they should make a deep run in the playoffs. No, you look at this team and saying they'll win 9, most likely 8 games this year. They might squeak in as a 7 seed, but then they're probably going out in the first round, especially if they're playing Green Bay. Because I don't care if it's Josh Jacobs or Aaron Jones, 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. Jordan Love's going to carve up that defense. At least that's how it looks like right now. So, yeah, not drafting a running back, disappointing, but not surprising considering what Jerry has been doing this offseason.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Well, it's been good to have you on. I really appreciate just the way you kind of analyze everything. Very, very fun to talk. Talk NFL quarterbacks and contenders here. Why don't you tell everyone where to find you?
Yeah, so on X, I'm David CGII. I have a podcast where you can find everywhere you listen to podcasts, Double Take, and a football podcast. We also have a YouTube channel under that same name. Love for you guys to check it out. Also, continue to check out Cheeseheadz Weekly. It's a great podcast, especially for your Packer fans. But yeah, I appreciate you, Landry, having me on and just talking football. It's a great time.
It is. Yep. Also, I appreciate the work you did on the overlay here. Very nice. Yeah, I was really, really grateful for that. I don't really do a whole lot extra stuff at this point because I'm just I don't feel the need to try to spend money to really grow the show an extra amount or anything because there's lots of other podcasts out there, so it's pretty slow going, but hey, it's basically for me it's just a hobby. I have a lot of fun doing it.
Same thing. Absolutely.
Yep. Yeah, and I had a lot of fun talking with you here this evening. A lot of fun. And yeah, be sure to check out David on X. He has a lot of great things to say. I guess that will about do it for us here today. Thanks for listening, everybody, and go Pack Go.